Let's now speak to the Competition Commission's Deputy Commissioner, Mr. Hardin Ratshisusu, who joins us live now. Thank you so much for your time. Listening to, parents that were speaking to my colleague there, Mahlako, they really are buckling under pressure, and it's tough for them when it comes to the issue of uniform. And I wonder then, as they're going shopping to get uniform, be it for the first time or coming back, when should alarm bells go off when it comes to things being overpriced?
Thank you, and good evening to the viewers. This is a very important issue because it talks to even access to education, and it affects a cross-section, of society. What we have done as the Competition Commission is to intervene with a view to ensuring that markets are competitive and that school uniform prices are competitive and accessible by all. Where I think parents should be on the lookout and where we see possibilities of high prices is where they are forced to buy school uniform from certain outlets, meaning that that outlet is the only place where they can procure the uniform. And certainly where the schools insist, on certain, types of uniform and colors, unique colors that are not available, in many places, that then could lead to higher prices. And I think those are the kinds of parents that would possibly face the highest prices for these products.
And would you say that, when we look at what was published in 2019, when some schools were found to be operating like cartels by yourselves, and we saw an admission and even a deal then being reached, would you say that that particular point of having more suppliers, because it's also included in your guidelines, is it being adhered to? Are you finding that more and more schools are giving parents more options here?
Indeed, what we have seen, and we see this as some measure of success, because we have had the major private schools agreeing to opening up their outlets, for competition, not entering into, very long-term leases, limiting those to, say, 5 years. So to ensure that there's always some renewal of these contracts and the competitive process is followed. So we do see some changes there in the market. And where we visit schools as well, we have had many schools across the country. So where there is an issue, we visit a particular school. Immediately, the principals, once we explain these issues to them, they immediately agree, and many of them have signed up to a code of conduct that they will adhere to these practices. And we have had the support of the school governing bodies and across, public schools and private schools, where we are seeing now a change in behavior. And in time, we think the markets in South Africa will be much more competitive.
And in some of the guidelines, when one looks at them that have, you've published, is that, uniform needs to be as generic as possible so that it can be obtainable from many suppliers. And tonight we are asking our viewers a question, whether or not they think that a standardized uniform for all schools in South Africa could make things slightly easier. And I wonder what would be your thoughts on this one.
We have given this some thought, and when we're looking at, particularly, issues of uniqueness, what is the acceptable, unique, features a school should adopt. And I think there are certain items that we admit that, there have to be some differentiator. So, things like blazers, sometimes ties. But also when you look at sports uniform, I think you can't have schools competing wearing the same uniform. So you are going to see some differentiation there. There are areas where we think schools can do better. Say a white shirt. So I'm wearing a white shirt today for this reason, that if you are looking for a white shirt, why do we have to have different types and different shades of white that schools insist on? I think this is something that schools can do better, because once the shades are standardized, you're going to have parents having more options. You are going to see a lot of small, medium-sized, tailors coming into the market who can be able to offer these products. I think what we need is to unlock competition in this space. Once that is unlocked fully, we are going to see better outcomes in future. Thank you.
And when one then looks at, some of the schools crying out for exclusivity, saying that there are certain items that, they can get from pre-selected suppliers, what would some of these items be if these exclusions can then apply to some of the schools?
Where we have agreed with some of the private schools was with respect to sports uniform, blazers, and I think ties. But we have not agreed on that you should persist with exclusivity, on even products that can be produced elsewhere. But also what we think can help is that even where there is that exclusivity, the designs can be made available to other tailors who can then use the same designs. They can easily find the material and make the blazer. The issue is when there's only one outlet appointed to provide these services, and then you see very high prices. It's like artificially creating monopolies for school uniform, which is against, I think, the spirit of the Competition Act. It is something that we do not condone at all as the Competition Commission.
And I hope parents have been listening very closely and can really watch this, through hawk's eyes, because it's something that is extremely important. Thank you so much for your conversation tonight and really giving parents some kind of tips as they are then going to be shopping for school uniform. That is Mr. Hardin Ratshisusu, Deputy Commissioner of the Competition Commission.